What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, 2-2 draw against the Toronto swim team. I mean, the Toronto Divers. I mean, the Toronto Flop. I mean, Toronto FC. Sorry. At their place, not a bad result. I mean, that they are the Division East champions from last year, and going to their place is a difficult place to go. I mean, first of all, it's in Toronto, so you're all the way up north. That's a long way to travel. The last game they played was in Seattle, which is a completely different environment, and the field they played on, the pitch, was just entirely different from anything they played on this season. I mean, so much more slick, and just you could tell by the way they were playing, it was moving a lot faster than it has been in the past few games. And on top of that, you've got refs that are swayed more easily than politicians by money with the home crowd. So, yeah, all in all, I mean, a draw is not a bad result, especially considering we were down at halftime. To come back and tie it up and then manage to hold on, not bad. So let's talk about the obvious thing to talk about first, which is, of course, the red card. I mean, is there any doubt that it wasn't a red card? It really, unless you're a Toronto FC fan, which if that's the case, then why are you even watching my video? Because I have my Atlanta United shirt on. You know I'm going to be talking about Atlanta United. But yeah, I mean, come on. Not only was the guy trying to block off Assad, so that's already obstruction. Not only was Assad trying to reach over him to get around him. If you're trying to get around the guy, you reach around him, so his arm went up to reach around. There's no motion like that to elbow him. Not only was there hardly any contact, it was pretty much just like a graze. And not only was the overdramatic performance worthy of an Oscar as the guy goes, ah, and then falls over and hits the ground, but the referee calls it, is perfectly content with giving Assad a talking to, and then all of a sudden the crowd see the big screen and go, boo, boo, and the fourth official goes, oh, you know what? That probably was a red card, and then talks to the referee. Since when, in the rules of soccer or football or whatever you call it, aside from, they've obviously added in the video replay in some games, it's not in this game. It's still not here in the MLS. Since when has the referee been allowed to go back and change his call? Because his call was head injury, we're going to stop the play. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he was calling the foul. It looked like he was stopping it for the head injury. So to go back and card that because one of the officials saw the big screen or heard the crowd booing, I don't know what it was. I hope we get an explanation from them on why they decided to go back on that. But he completely changed his call because of that. That's not okay. That is not in the rules of soccer. You're not allowed to go back because the crowd saw something on the big screen. If that were the case, I remember going to the first game in Atlanta, there was a moment where it was clearly our ball on a corner, and the players were even saying, look at the big screen, you'll see it. And so we turn around to look at the big screen, sure enough, it's a corner. Guess what? If they're going to do that to give the red card, we can get the corner there. If that's the case, every single time something bad happens, the player should just say, hey, look at the big screen. Because clearly, your call there now doesn't matter. Because if the crowd sees something they don't like, or if the other officials see something they don't like, now we can switch the call around. Oh, you know what? That tackle came in. It looked like a foul, but looking at the replay, never mind, it wasn't a foul. So let's just give the other team the ball. Anything can happen at this point. So that call is not only the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen, but it's just insulting to the sport. The sport where the referees sometimes make bad calls. That's fine. But to change a call based on something that the crowd saw, based on something on the big screen, and on top of that, it's not even looking at it closely, you can see that there's definitely no intent for an elbow there. That's even more insulting. It's one thing if there actually was, like, he went up and hit him in the head with his elbow, like threw it in, and then they saw that on the big screen and thought, oh, you know what, that actually was dangerous play, here's your red. That would be one thing. It would suck because you're not supposed to do that, but it would at least be right in giving the call. The fact that they went back on something that wasn't even there, that should have been called in the first place, and then see something that isn't even there because the crowd is sitting there booing them, and then gives them a red card for that, that is just the most insulting thing I've ever seen. And if nobody looks at these refs and says, hey, that's wrong, if nobody looks at what they did there and says that's wrong, because not only do you change the game by bringing us a man down, but now he might miss the next game if whatever football association we have here, I don't know what it's called, but if they don't look at that and say, you know what, the ref was wrong there and rescind that red card, we could be without Assad for the next game. And he's a very influential player. So I'm just all around really pissed about that call because it's dumb. It is the stupidest call I've seen in a professional match. And that's saying a lot because I've been watching a lot of professional football overseas, in the MLS at times. I've seen a lot of bad referees. This is insultingly bad. So that's my rant on referees. I'm sorry if it went on a bit too long. Let's talk about the players. So we kind of started off with a 4-4-2 a bit, kind of transitioned to a 4-5-1 at times, and then by the end of the game we were kind of in a 5-4-1, and then of course dropped into 5-3-1 whenever we lost the Assad. But it started off same back four: Mears, Parkhurst, Perez, Garza, Laurentowicz and Carmona with Gressel, and then it kind of switched around. Sometimes Almiron went out wide, sometimes he tucked into the middle, and then Villalba was moving around as well, Assad was moving around as well. It never really seemed like it was a true formation, and I think that kind of hurt us in the first half. Like, we didn't really know what the formation was supposed to be, and so it just seemed like everybody's kind of out of position. They're, at times it did confuse the defense, and that's what led to a couple of our chances in the first half. But for the most part, it seemed like whenever we were getting back, players didn't really know what they were supposed to be doing defensively. So I don't really know what the formation was, but it looked okay at times, and then there were other times where it just looked a bit sloppy. Going by individual performances, they were talking about him a lot in this game, because he had to make several saves. I'm watching him though, and a lot of the saves he has to make is due to mistakes that he makes beforehand. Like there was one that Giovinco tried to chip him, and he ended up touching it over the goal. Well, before that, he comes out when Perez is on Giovinco instead of staying back. And so Giovinco takes it wide and fakes a shot, so now he's down on the ground going to make a save that's not coming, and he's still out of his goal, and then Giovinco takes it even further wide, and now he has to be back up. He's still out of position, and Giovinco has a chance to chip him, and he manages to touch it over. But that all comes from that first bad decision to come out, and now all of a sudden you're in a position where it's dangerous. It shouldn't be because Perez is ushering him wide, and at this point, any shot that he takes should be right at you. But now that you've come out and now you put yourself in a bad position, now you have to make a great save. And honestly, while some of the saves he makes are pretty good, overall I'm watching him and I just get nervous whenever a shot comes in because sometimes it doesn't feel like he's fully in control of the situation. There's one cross comes in, he goes to punch it. Instead of getting a good, clean punch on it, he's punching it straight into the ground and it bounced to one of their players. I'm just like, this is nerve-wracking. So, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like he's a 100% solid keeper. He's good at times, and he has to make some good saves, but overall, he does make a few mistakes that are very dangerous for us. And, better strikers could put it away. So, that would be my only complaint there. Defense, Mears on the right, wasn't as involved in this game as he has been in the past few. I don't know if that's just because they were constantly going down our left side or if he was just out of position a lot. But it did seem like he wasn't as involved defensively or offensively for us today. He had to be involved at times, but I just remember in the first few games against Seattle too, it felt like he was just a constant threat. Whether they were on the ball or whether we had the ball, it felt like he was up and down the line working hard. Today, it didn't really feel like that. It felt like he hardly got up. And on defense, it felt like he wasn't really tracking. The second goal that the guy scored coming from his side, it wasn't entirely his fault. I'll get to that later, whose fault it was. But he did kind of lose track of that man. I understand he's got several guys around him that aren't really being picked up, but that guy is coming in from this side of him, and he should see him. His body should be opened up. He reads that, and he gets to it before the guy does. But he was completely turned here, so the guy snuck in from behind him and got to it before he did, and that leads to a goal. So, I don't know, it just felt like he wasn't as involved in this game mentally. But he still works hard at times, and I still see the value of having him back there. I mean, there are a couple of challenges he put in that were excellent. I just think that today wasn't one of his better games. Parkhurst, same thing. He was definitely involved defensively, but actually this could go for Perez as well. I understand we're trying to play out of the back. I understand that's kind of our style. But at the same time, when they've got three guys pressing your two defenders, you either got to get it wide away from them, or you got to get down the field quickly. You can't pass into the middle to one of them, because that. How many times did that happen today? We're just giving the ball right to them, and all of a sudden, it's dangerous out of nothing really, because we're playing stupid in the back. And the thing is, that passing around in the back can be great if people are moving to get open and if the passes are coming quick, but they weren't. Nobody was moving, and the passes were taking 2 or 3 touches and then getting rid of it. And by that point, they've already read where you're going. They've closed it down. Now you have to take even quicker touches, more hectic. All of a sudden, you give it away, and then they've got it. So we either need to work on making sure there's more movement whenever there is a high press, or if there is a high press, just not trying to play in the back at all and just getting it forward, getting it out of there. Because even late on in the game, they're down in our half. We've got maybe less than a minute left, and I'm watching them as they're trying to pass around in the back. I'm like, just get it out. They're putting such a high press. You try to pass around back there, we're going to lose it. Oh, look, we lost it. Now they're back at us again. So I don't know. Parkhurst and Perez were a big part of that. I felt like there were so many times where they just needed to get it out, and they didn't. They tried to move it around and then just gave it up easy. However, defensively, they did do a lot of good work today. I mean, Perez was on top of it. He really worked hard. Parkhurst didn't really see as much of him defensively, but he was there. I could see a lot of the challenges he was putting in, a lot of pressure he was putting on them as well, so they didn't have a lot of space. But there was a lack of communication in the first half that they did end up fixing in the second half. But also part of that was Laurentowicz kind of dropped in as a third defender, and I think that kind of sorted out everything because they didn't really have to track as many men. Because first half, when it was just 2 of them and there were 2 up top, it felt like one of them had to step to one and one of them had to step to the other. Midfield wasn't really getting back and helping. Well, you drop Laurentowicz in there, and that adds this third defender. So now it feels like, okay, now we've got 3 defenders for 2 forwards. That works a lot better than 2 for 2. So I think that third defender did help him out in the second half. But first half, there was definitely a lack of communication about who's getting what, what's going on, who's stepping, who's dropping, all that stuff. So that was the only concern with them, aside from giving the ball away. And then Garza, I mean, he works hard. Just honestly, for me today, I think he was. Obviously, Almiron and Villalba were our most dangerous players going forward, but if I had to pick our best player overall, I'd have to say Garza. Just because of how much he works getting back and defending, getting up and helping in the attack. He's working so hard both sides of the ball. It's kind of incredible. And he's not really the fastest player either. Like, watching him run, he doesn't really get up to a high speed or anything like that. Like, he's not going to beat anybody with pace. But he works so hard to get there that it's like if they slow up at all, he's going to get to it first. They have to go full speed to beat him there, and that just wears him out. And he just keeps going at that same pace back and forth. I mean, there's one moment where it's late on in the game. It's like the 87th minute. We're down a man at this point too, and he's making a run down the line to open up space to get out wide, and then crosses it in. Not a bad cross, but nobody gets on the end of it, so now it's their ball. The keeper has it. He's kicking it downfield, and all of a sudden there's Garza back in defense, marking that guy. I think he got a foul out of it as well. So just all-around work ethic from him is amazing. And honestly, he could be a big part of our season. I know last game he was kind of hurt a little bit, something with his knee. So I hope that doesn't really affect him too. Or no, maybe it was his hip. I think it was his hip. Hopefully nothing too bad to keep him out of a lot of games. Obviously without Martinez, we've struggled a little bit. So if we continue to lose players like that, like Garza, like Martinez, the hard workers on the team that just provide so much just from all the work that they do, not necessarily from what they're doing on the ball. Yeah, that's pretty much what our team needs to be based on. So hopefully he can stay healthy and stay fit. Into the midfield, Laurentowicz and Carmona were defensive midfielders in the first half, and Laurentowicz dropped in as a defender second half. Carmona, I praised him in the past. Today, just not on top of it at all. I mean, I can't even count how many times he dove in, lost his man, got turned. Today, he was just not on it. I don't know what was up today. I don't know if he was struggling with something mentally, physically. I don't know. But the confident, strong midfielder that I've seen that goes in, wins challenges, puts high pressure, but doesn't really dive in, that defender wasn't there today. He was constantly diving in, and it hurt us several times. I mean, Cooper was one that kept beating him. He just kept diving in. He'd poke it past him. Altidore was another one that just turned him, used his big frame and turned, and Carmona wasn't able to keep him there. So I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really up for it today. It seemed like he wasn't ready for the physical battle and the speed that they had in there, which is really surprising because I thought he held up pretty well. Watching him against Red Bulls first game, he looked a really quick, hard defensive midfielder. And then today, I didn't see any of that. I saw a lazy midfielder that just dives in, doesn't stand him up, tries too hard to win the ball, and then gets beat easy. So yeah, probably our second worst player today, and coming from Carmona, that's a big thing for me, just because I didn't expect him to be so bad today. Honestly, having him back in the starting lineup, I was really excited because last game it felt like we were lacking without him in there, but today he didn't show what he's capable of. Absolutely. Laurentowicz played a bit better today and I think better in defense than he was in the midfield in the first half. Part of his problem is he doesn't like to track. And so whenever you put him in defense, it's more he's already behind everybody, so he doesn't really have to track players. When you put him in the midfield, if they get behind him running at the defense, he's not going to track that man. Going back to the second goal, this is what I was talking about when I'm saying it's not entirely Mir's fault for missing the guy running in. You watch what happened. I think it was Garza that was holding up Vasquez on the ball. You see he's going nowhere. All he has is what's back, and Laurentowicz had just gone to close down a man out wide. I'm watching the replay, and I see from the angle I've got, you see Garza holding up Vasquez, and it's facing away from goal. So you see the rest of the field. All of a sudden you see Vasquez lay it off to the guy who's making a run in. I'm like, wait, Laurentowicz just saw him. Where is he? Jogging across the top of the box, getting back into the middle. That's your man out wide. You're supposed to stay on him so he doesn't have a clear run into the box. And the thing is, I watched it closely. I watched him, specifically what he did. He went to close down the cross. The guy plays it into Vasquez. Laurentowicz turns to look at the ball as the guy runs in behind him, and he just jogs in, not even paying attention to what that guy's doing. So he really, I think he hurts us in the midfield. I don't think he's an effective defensive midfielder. I think he's better as a defender, because watching him in the second half, he looked much more comfortable there, first of all, and he does put in a good challenge from time to time. Watching him go into a good, strong tackle is not something I see from a lot of these players. Most of them, they go kind of just stick a foot out and hope for the best, and a lot of times it just sort of bounces off of him and keeps going. Laurentowicz goes in to win the ball, and he does it well. So if you take away the fact that he doesn't track men back, which is what happens whenever he gets in defender, I think he's a better player. So I think hopefully Martinez sees that and kind of utilizes that a bit better, because honestly, that's where we need. That's more where he needs to be rather than defensive midfielder. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that's what I saw from him today. Gressel is the other midfielder that was in there. Like I said, kind of not really sure what we were playing in the first half. I'm not sure if he was more of an attacking mid or if he was more of just a midfielder in general, and there were three of them in there. But honestly, I talked about how he looks like he's got a lot of potential. There's some things he did really well, and then, he works hard, stuff like that. Today didn't show it. I don't know. Same thing with Carmona. Carmona, though, I've seen him be the best he can be and be one of the most effective players out there. So today, very disappointing from him. But Gressel, he's kind of been back and forth. There have been times where he looks an effective player. He looks solid in the midfield. He's moving the ball around and he makes some good runs up. Today, he made one good run and then lost the ball because of a bad touch. The rest of it was missed passes, not great challenges. Put in a couple good defensive challenges. But overall, it just looked very ineffective today. I can't remember. Obviously, the couple times that I've mentioned, the one run he made through that he lost the ball, several bad passes, and then a couple good challenges defensively. That's about all I can think of from him. I can't really think of anything else he did. So, I don't know, it just seemed like he kind of faded out of the game at times. It felt like he was ineffective today. And whenever you're supposed to be one of those midfielders that sort of starts the attack, either he's the distributor or he's the one that dribbles at defense or he's the one that wins the ball back for us. He was none of those today. He was just a player in the middle. And so whenever that happens, it's time for you to come out. And so honestly, whenever he was subbed out late on, kind of made sense. And then the front three-ish, like I said, don't really know what they were doing, but Assad, Villalba, and Almiron were kind of interchanging a little bit up there. Um, all very effective today, in my opinion. Assad maybe a little bit less than the other two, just because he was involved, but not as much as the other two were. But he still works hard, and I like what he does on the ball. I think there are times when he and Almiron are combining that it just looks really, really good. And I think I talked about this before, how whenever we go down our left side and it's Garza, Almiron, and Assad just moving the ball around in a little triangle, it looks like our best passing play. That looks like us at our best. That's what we need. So I think he's definitely a player we need. And like I said, if we lose him for a game because of this stupid ref, very disappointing. Because he is an effective player. Even if he's not really doing much on the ball, he's still doing enough off the ball to cause the defense some problems to where they have to focus. Almiron, still our most dangerous player, no doubt. Just watching what he does with his passes, with his movement. I mean, for the most part, you have to close him down quickly, because if you give him time and space to run or dribble, he's going to hurt you. And so I'm watching him, and I'm just like, every single time he gets on the ball, it's kind of like watching Hazard for Chelsea. Every time he gets on the ball, I'm excited, because I want to see what he's going to do. I want to see, is he going to beat somebody? Is he going to play a great through ball? What's he going to do on it? Got himself an assist today off of a great through ball. So, yeah, I'm just really excited to have him on our team. I'm glad that he's still playing. He's still being effective. Obviously, not having him in the last game hurt us for the most part. But whenever he comes on the field, he's on the field. He's done something to remind you he's out there. And then Villalba worked pretty well today. I talked about the last game, how he looks a bit more comfortable as a striker than he does as a winger. Maybe a little bit less today, just because it felt like the defense was a lot more aggressive than I think Seattle's defense was. I think Seattle's defense not aggressive, but they were much more focused on winning the ball than they were, getting through Villalba as well. This defense looked a bit more intent on stopping him any way possible. But, I mean, he's still making some really good runs. I think on the ball, he's a little bit ineffective at times. Just his touch isn't that great. His dribbling skills aren't that great. He may be able to beat one man, but then after that, it's like he holds on to it a bit too long. And I don't know, his passing is good at times, and then other times not so great. So, I don't know, I think as a striker, as that kind of in behind the defense striker, always making those runs, I think he looks just so much more effective because he doesn't really have much to do there. You send him through, he makes the run, he's faster than most of the defenders out there. He's going to be one-on-one with the keeper, and most of the time he's going to finish it. So I think that position for him works very well. Into the second half, didn't make any changes until late on, and at that point we were already a man down. McCann came on for Almiron, and didn't do anything bad, but also didn't do anything effective either. There was that one run he made into the box that looked good at first, but then you kind of see Garza making a run in behind him, and all you can think is, yeah, that was a nice dribble, but Garza was right there for the shot. So, he's not a bad player, but I haven't seen anything from him yet to make me get excited, be like, oh, I can't believe McCann's, we got to get McCann out there, we got to get him on the field, he's going to change something. I haven't seen that from him yet. Jones, on the other hand, did show me a bit more today than I've seen from him over the past couple games. I mean, just the fact that we needed kind of an outlet to play the ball up to. Villalba didn't really give us that in the first half because, like I said, his touch isn't the best. Jones is definitely a big body who you send it up to him. He's either flicking the header on to kind of push the defense back, and now they've got to reset and gives us time to organize, or he's winning it and he's holding onto the ball and laying it off for somebody. That's something that we probably could have used today, later on whenever they were pushing on us really, really hard late on in the second half. And so whenever he comes on, whenever we're man down, it makes a lot of sense. He picks up the ball, he gives you time on the ball, he gives you time for the defense to relax. Really effective today, in my opinion. Hopefully put a little bit of a case in for a start, hopefully in the next game, maybe. But definitely a hard worker, and I appreciate when a player goes out there and just does what he does very well and can influence the game a little bit, because he did give our defenses a break at times. And the last one, like I said, Gressel came off because it wasn't really affecting the game at all. Although I still would have liked to have seen Carmona come off just because was not having a good game at all. He was affecting the game in the wrong way. But Harrison Heath comes on, didn't really have much time to do anything, and I don't really know who he is. Honestly, I was kind of hoping for Peterson to make an appearance just because he is such a hard worker. So even though he's not a very talented player, I think he provides so much just in how hard he works to win back the ball. I think he could have done a lot for us in just slowing down their attack and kind of giving us a chance to take a breath because they were coming at us hard at that point. So all in all, though, like I said, a draw at their place with the referees this bad, it's not a bad result. I mean, you look at a lot of the calls that the refs were making, very inconsistent in Toronto's favor. You know, just it felt like every single time we go into a challenge, it's a foul for them. Every single time they go into a challenge, nothing. I mean, Villalba got a yellow after the guy had him in a headlock and then he runs into his back. It's like, call the first foul then. But, not going to do that. Oh, Altidore throws, pretty much grabs Laurentowicz, and then Laurentowicz is trying to, win the ball, and then Altidore falls over. Oh, that's a yellow for Laurentowicz and a free kick right outside the box. It just felt so inconsistent. And then after the red card, what makes it even funnier, terrible call for the red card, but then so many tackles and challenges coming in both ways that nothing is being called. It felt like such a physical game at that point, and nothing was being called. There were a couple that were obvious fouls, but for the most part, it started letting stuff go. I'm just like, what are you doing? You're letting this get out of hand. It's ridiculous. But anyway, refs will be refs. This was pretty bad, and honestly, if they don't get fined for this game, or I don't know, lose a game or something, something should happen to these refs because that's just awful. But anyway, long story short, not happy with the result, but I'm also not too disappointed because I think this is a decent result for us. And somebody was saying, 4 draws on the road for these 4 games that were on the road will not be bad results. And Seattle and Toronto are 2 tough places to go play, and getting two points out of that is not a bad thing. So hopefully we can pick it up in the next game, though, and continue to push on and just get better. Obviously, we still won't have Martinez for a couple more games, but I think we still have enough of a striking force between Almiron, Villalba, and Assad that I think we can still be effective up front. So hopefully we continue to push. Hopefully we continue to get good results. But until then, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who's your man of the match? What were your thoughts on the calls today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.